They said, but Daniel, if I train my team, they will leave.
Mm.
They're going to go and work for my competitor. I
Yeah.
hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that could happen, possibility. But let me ask you a question. If you don't train them, what's going to happen? They will stay. What is worse for you?
You want to grow your business. We all want to grow our business. But the question is how? How can we increase revenue? How can we increase sales? And how can we do it with the team that we've already got? Well, one solution is to train them up. But there's a lot of really poor training out there. So in this interview that you're about to see, you're going to meet Daniel Marcos. And Daniel is a really interesting guy who has lost a lot of money through no major fault of his own, I would say, and rebuilt his life, rebuilt his company, and put together a really solid team of A players who can help your organization potentially and has helped big organizations such as Air France and YPO get bigger, get stronger, and get more profitable. I really think you're going to enjoy this, but let me know underneath in the comments what you thought, okay? I think you're going to like this one. Your company's called Growth Institute. Can you, I'd like to do something with you. Bearing in mind, this is only the second time we've done this podcast. First time it worked well. Don't worry if it doesn't work. It might be a disaster, and if it is, it doesn't matter. But do you think you could describe, not yet, but in a few seconds, within 20 seconds, what Growth Institute will mean to I guess, is the main target CEOs?
Yes, CEOs, C-level executives of mid-market company.
Do you think you could do that in 20 seconds?
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna open the elevator doors. When the elevator doors open, you've got 20 seconds to describe what Growth Institute means to CEOs and C-level executives.
If you want to grow your company by 10x, you first have to grow your team by 10x, and not in quantity, it's quality and capability. You have to scale decision making with confidence with the rest of the team. We give the C-level team the confidence for them to scale decision making.
There you go. Yeah. You did it.
That was
That
what
was
you want.
perfect. You'd think we'd rehearsed that one, but we didn't. That was brilliant, Daniel. Well done, mate. You're based in Austin, Texas, correct?
Yes.
And the
I've been living in
company,
Austin for 20 years.
Austin for 20 years. The company is also based out of Austin.
That is correct.
Did I see something? It might have been a misrepresentation on LinkedIn that you guys had a connection to Mexico.
So I am originally from Mexico. I grew up in Mexico. I went to college in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I have an office in Mexico, and I have all my back office in Latin America. I have
Okay.
people in Mexico, in Argentina,
Mm.
Salvador, Guatemala, Colombia, uh,
Hmm.
all video editing, customer support, finance, everything is done in Latin America.
That makes sense. That makes a
So
lot of
the
sense.
nearshoring that people are talking, we've been doing it for 12 years and works amazing. And by the way, we do a lot of revenue in Latin America.
Do you?
Big chunk of our revenues in Latin America. What,
So
what, what we
would
do
you?
in the US, there's some competitors and all that. In
Mhm.
Latin America, we're the only ones doing it.
Ah, okay. That's cool.
So we're very unique in Spanish in
Very
what we do.
cool. Very cool. So I guess you guys are a two-language company in that respect.
Today, yes, we are now exploring what's the next language we're going to go.
So Spanish, English. English is the number one, or Spanish is the number
English is
one?
number one. No, English is number
English,
one.
English
Yeah,
is number
English is
one.
it's really big. The market in English around the world is really, really big.
Makes sense. But it's not a small market that speaks Spanish, is it? It's a huge market. Latin
Yeah,
America,
it
Spain.
you have to adapt a lot of things for the Spanish market.
Yeah,
Uh, but we were from there. We started doing consulting in Latin America, so we understand the market very, very well.
makes sense. Makes sense. Do you have an idea what the third language might be?
So it should be French,
Hmm.
uh, um, and we have that should be the right language.
Yeah.
Reality is we have partners in parts of the world, like
Hmm.
Malaysia, for example.
Ah,
We have a very, very strong partner in Malaysia. And he
right.
said, hey, bring it to Malay. And we're like, yeah, it's a small country, small
Mm.
language,
Hmm.
but he's a really, really, really good partner in the region.
Got it.
So his capacity of being able to grow in the
Yeah.
region. Very,
It's
very high.
always hard to know which way to go. Sometimes a really good idea, you just have to say no to it because there's a more important idea.
But just to give you an idea, Malaysia is less than half the size of Mexico in GDP.
Yeah, but it's always an opportunity, right? If you can be a big fish in a small
If you're
pond.
the only one, that's correct.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but just let's put a little bit of sizes because it's important that you understand. Mexico, the economy of the world, all the
Hmm.
economy of the world,
Yeah.
is around $95 trillion today, more or
Okay.
less. Okay, Mexico is 1.1 trillion.
Right.
Texas, it's like 2 trillion. So
I see.
Texas is two sides Mexico.
Yeah, I get.
California is five and a half. California is five and a half times Mexico.
Yeah, California's insane.
Malaysia, let's say it's 400 billion, so zero point 0.4 of a trillion.
Mm,
So it's a fifth of Texas,
I get
right?
it.
Should we just focus on being the best in Texas? It's five times Malaysia.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tricky, isn't it? These are the big
Tricky.
decisions.
Yeah.
These are the big
But
decisions.
yes, you could be a really big player. By the way,
Yeah.
you have Singapore next to it. That Singapore growth is really important for us. We have a lot
Mm,
of clients in Singapore, and a lot of people in Singapore also speak Malay,
mm,
one of the three official languages. You have
yeah,
to add a little bit, but those are the kind of things that you have to be very strategic in how you take decisions.
100%, 100%. So, how did Growth Institute start, and what did it take to get to you get? What did it take to get to where you are today?
So we have three brand promises and growth institute.
Hmm.
So let me explain a little bit of the basics of the business. When we started 12 years ago, we said there's going to be a boom in education online,
Yeah.
and then there's going to be a consolidation. And
Mhm.
whoever has the best brands will win.
Okay.
Always, when there's a boom, everyone makes a lot of money. When there's
Hmm.
a consolidation, just the best brands stay alive. The ones
Yeah.
that have no brand, they will disappear.
Yeah.
So we said we have to be partnered with the best business brands.
Hmm.
We start acquiring rights, courses online all over the world. We start Bern Harnish, Salim Ismail, Peter Diamandis, Marshall Goldsmith, and all these thought leaders. We went to them and said, they want to partner with you, want to bring
Hmm.
your course online, and just did courses with thought leaders.
Yeah.
So our first brand promise is every class that we do, every course that we do, is partner with a thought leader that is very famous and has a big
Mm.
follower and has a big brand in the
Yeah.
world. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, it has to be guided.
Hmm.
Um, we always said, hey, YouTube is going to be really big. You won't be able to win against YouTube.
Hmm.
YouTube is very strong and it's cheap, easy,
Yeah.
free, can win. How can we beat YouTube? And is
Right.
we have to guide people to implement. You
Yeah.
could learn a lot of things, but if you cannot implement them, you will not have no value. So we have to guide people, and that's why we have a lot of coaching in the process to make sure we help people implement.
Hmm.
And then the third one is we have to give you the tools to be practical to implement.
Hmm.
Because we could guide you, but if it's difficult, it's going to be hard. We produce and we invent a lot of tools to help you implement what we teach.
Okay. That
So,
makes sense.
and the guy that we have coached and everything. So that's every course that you take. We're partnered with a thought leader that usually wrote a book that is leader in their category.
Hmm.
We have coaches to guide you in the process, and we give you tools of how to implement. And that's why people say, hey, Daniel, your course are a little bit more expensive than the average. And I was like, yes, but you're going to implement. You're going to
Yeah.
learn something, you're going to implement. I'll give you some data that you will appreciate. If you
Okay.
go to a Coursera, the typical MOOCs,
Hmm.
the MOOCs have a completion rate of 3%.
Okay.
Right? So of 100 people that enroll, just
Yeah.
3% finish the class.
Yeah. It's low.
Very low. Then you go to the Udemy's, these courses
Hmm.
that you buy for 15,
I know it.
$20, whatever. They
Yeah.
have a completion rate of 15% or less.
Okay.
At Growth Institute, a master business course, has a
Hmm.
completion rate of 70, 75%. We've had courses with 80% completion.
Nice.
That's huge.
Yeah,
So
of
I tell
course.
people, if you want, it's not about the money, it's about the time you're going to invest in going
Yeah.
through the program. You want to be
Yeah.
able to implement and have an impact in your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, there's almost like this kind of perception that if you've bought the course, you've done the work. And it's obviously completely wrong, but it's how gym subscriptions work, right? Like people pay for the gym subscription, but they forget that you also have to go to the gym.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Paying the gym is easy. Waking
Yeah.
up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to a gym is really hard.
Yeah, that's it, man.
So,
That-
so we don't sell the gym without the coach, let's say,
yeah.
and they call you. You have to come to class, and then when you're there, they're helping you. They give you the tools and they guide you on everything so you could get the results.
Nice one. Nice. So let's do another section the we call the deep dive. I'll just do a little introduction for that. What's the most important thing about Growth Institute to you?
The impact we're able to do around the world. We've helped over like 20,000 companies in
Hmm.
70 countries around the world. It's just amazing the impact we've been able to have. Um, and going back to human conditions, human beings all over the world, they want to have a company, they want to be able to scale their impact, and they want to have a better quality of life or
Hmm.
less drama in their life to be able to enjoy it.
Mm.
So we've helped companies you can imagine where, and it's very fulfilling to see the impact we've been able to give to the world. Um, so that's been very, very cool.
Yeah.
And we got all over the world. I've been giving big engagements. Everyone in Latin America I spoke, but I spoke in India, in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Singapore,
Mm.
Indonesia, Thailand.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool to see the impact and what people tell you said, hey, you changed my company. I started getting your courses. I took this, I implemented this, and this is the impact that I have.
So what can you give me an example of how you might have helped change a company from the inside?
So there's one that I really, really like, Alex Leiva. Alex, there's three brothers. He was in college, just graduated from college.
Yeah.
And there were three brothers from a father that was an entrepreneur. And one day the father gets sick
Hmm.
and he could not work. He goes to the hospital. The mom is taking care of the dad, trying to keep him alive.
Mm.
Company has no direction, no nothing.
Mm.
He's called his brothers and said, guys, we need to jump in our parents' company. It's like, first, that's how well we make money. You guys are in college, your college and everything is paid by the work that dad does in this company.
Yeah.
And that cannot work. It's our job now to provide income for our parents.
Yeah.
We need to jump in. So Alex jumps into full time and gets his brothers part time.
Yeah.
And of course, he has no idea how to run the company. There's a lot of drama. He's going online. He finds Growth Institute. He goes into scaling up. And then he divorces it and kind of understand what is to be a CEO.
Mm.
And then start changing a lot of the systems and the processes. He realizes that the dad has built the company very family style, not professional. He
Mm.
has systems and processes and all these
Hmm.
kind of things and clarity of decision making. And
Yeah.
he started bringing a lot of this. Then said, "Hey, I have a hiring problem with the team," and takes a class on top rating. And then he goes into 5 or 6 classes of all the issues that the company had. In 3 years, he doubles revenue,
Yeah.
grows profit by 5, and
Wow.
sells the company for $25 million.
Huh. So they went from being essentially a potentially failing company to 5xing.
5xing profit and getting a $25 million check.
Yeah, by getting
So,
the fundamentals in place, right?
yeah, like, how clear the impact is that? And by the way, he said, "Hey, my dad's alive. He's not very well, so he could not work, but he got a check for life. Now my dad is retired. My mom is retired. My
Yeah.
brothers and I, we got a decent check
That's the
in
dream,
our
right? That
in our
you come in and
20s.
help in that kind of way.
Yeah. And now we're going to do something else. Like, how can you tell me a better story than that?
No, absolutely. I love that. It's a great story.
And
Um,
like that, we have stories all over the world, everywhere.
I love it. How do you measure success for Growth Institute?
Uh, so if you understand the big hack, the big hairy audacious goal, our big hack is to help 10 million leaders be able
Hmm.
to do those two things: scale their impact, and
Mhm.
reduce drama. So
Okay.
for us, success is how many leaders are we helping?
Yeah.
And we don't count the people that are in social media and all those things. It's just people that came and took a course and
Yeah.
completed the course and had some impact with the course.
Hmm.
Uh, and we've helped 70, 80,000 people.
Hmm.
That's success for us. Uh,
70 or 80,000 people.
uh, 70 or 8,000 people have taken at least one class and
Yeah,
taken action and implement something.
that's significant. And I don't know if this is a different question, but how do you measure success for you as an individual?
So I learned this from the founder of Kinko's. I don't know if you remember Kinko's stores that were
Yeah,
sold to
yeah,
FedEx.
yeah.
So one day I was taking a class with him, and at the end they asked him, "What is success for you?" He's a
Hmm.
billionaire. Um, he's a guy that had big ADD and all that. And he said, "For me, success is that when your kids grow older, they want to spend time with you."
I like it.
I thought it was profound. And then
Hmm.
let me kind of unpack it a little bit. When your kids are older and they
Yeah,
could choose to be with their friends, to be traveling, to be with you, or
yeah,
to be whatever, and they choose to spend time with you,
I get it.
your kids know everything. How
Yeah.
nice you're with the waiters, how
Hmm.
nice you're with your wife,
Yeah.
how good of a dad you've been, like
Hmm.
everything about you.
Yeah.
And if they want to spend time with you, is that they're telling you that you did it well.
Hmm.
That's my definition of success.
I like it. Yeah, I once met I think he's a billionaire. I won't say his name, try and be a little bit discreet, but he's well known online as well. And he told me proudly how he rarely saw his son, I think it was, and how his son had to make an appointment to speak with him. And
Oh,
I think it was this kind of like display of that's how busy I am and that's how important I am. But for me, it just seemed profoundly sad because he had from the outside everything, but clearly didn't have that closeness with his family.
I have a similar story that breaks my heart. Someone like that. For me,
Hmm.
I'm one of the proud, sorry, I'm one of the lucky ones. Their
Hmm.
kids want to talk to you.
Yeah,
I
I love
was,
it.
how can you brag about that? Like
Well, yeah, but I mean, different people, different perspectives. But I share your perspective on what success means. Very much so. Very
that's for me.
Yeah, no, it resonates with me massively. I've got I've got two kids, and yeah, it resonates with me a lot. What's a common misconception people have about you or Growth Institute?
What's a misconception?
What are they skeptical about? What stops them from signing up? What takes them? Why do they take so long to sign up if that's the case? Something like that.
So they usually think that, by the way, the biggest concern, complaint that we
Mhm.
have or concern on the sales process is
Yeah,
time.
time.
So we have to let me this is important that I already connected one. So one is time, right? We don't
Hmm.
have the time. My team is busy enough
Hmm.
to get them on training. And I
Yeah,
was, but if you don't train them, they will stay busy as they are, and that's not going to change. The only way you're going to change that is if you learn a new skill, you're able to implement it to make
yeah,
things easier, right?
yeah.
That's one. And the second one that I really enjoy seeing their face when I say this, they said, "But Daniel, if I train my team, they will leave. They're
Mm.
going to go and work for my competitor." I
Yeah,
hear that all the time.
yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, that could happen. It's a possibility. But let me ask you a question. If you don't train them, what's going to happen? They will stay. What is worse for you?"
I like that one.
And that's the reaction. Like, oh, okay, where do I pay?
I like that one. I've not heard that one before. That's a
And it's
really
reality. Hey, if you train 10, will 3 leave? Yes. Will you be mad that they left and somebody's going to go to your competitor? Right. But you
yeah,
will keep at least 7. They're going to be
yeah,
much better and they're going
yes.
to give you a lot of value.
Yeah, man, I get it. So there's two things there, right? There's not being a busy fool, because being busy. I think it was Tim Ferriss who described it as the ultimate form of laziness. Like you're not getting your brain organized at all. So you're just constantly busy. Like it's like this badge of honor. Whereas if you're just busy doing things that don't matter, then you're a busy fool. That's one, right? And the second is, yeah. How would you describe the second? It's being what?
I think that's having a limited belief, a limited mind. And by the way, I tell them, hey, I've trained a lot of people that left and work for competitors. Other people.
Mm,
It's my duty as an entrepreneur, just for the lucky that I am to be an entrepreneur, to help my community develop, help
hmm
the world develop. And if
Yeah.
I make a human being better, even if it does work for me, I'm okay.
It's this abundance mindset, right?
It's abundance. Hey,
Yeah.
we're here. And by the way, I treat my employees so well and train them and all that, that
Mm,
they're the first ones to get me into the companies they go. You can imagine, like
nice.
this is you can imagine how many employees have gone to another company and
hmm
they call me and said, Daniel, my CEO is terrible. Can you please coach my CEO? They have no idea what they're doing. Because
Okay.
we run like a machine internally. We have KPIs, we have rhythm of meetings, we have a daily huddle. Like we run like so efficient that when they leave, it's like, how can someone run so inefficiently?
Nice.
And by the way, this
That's a
story,
that
I
is
have
a
an employee, I have a team member that left.
mm,
And when she resigned, she was great. She was really gave a lot of value. So when she resigned, I was really sad. So I called her and said, hey, why are you leaving? And she, well, there's this company that I have this purpose that I really like, and blah, blah, blah. And I have to give results with you every week, like
mm,
KPIs of everything that I do. These companies have all the KPIs, so I'm going to be able to have a softer life and blah, blah. So I'm going to go and work there.
yeah.
I was like, you know what? I will miss you. You're great, blah, blah. And say, hey, by the way, you have stock of the company.
Mm.
Every employee after a year, they earn stocks of the company.
Ah, nice.
So I said, hey, she had at that moment like $5,000 or $6,000 of stock.
Mm.
So I
Nice.
said, hey, you have like $5,000 or $6,000 of stock. Can I buy your stock? I'll be happy to buy your stock.
Mm.
And she was like, no, do I have to sell it? And I was like, wait. You're resigning to the company and you want to sell your stock? And she was like, no way. My money is here. Like, whenever you grow your company and you sell it, you'll send me a check. I
Nice.
don't need the money. And I was
Nice.
like, but then why are you leaving? And she
Yeah.
said, I want to have a easier life with less KPIs. And I'm leaving because of that. But I love your company. I will be a promoter. Do you think she's not
Yeah.
going to promote my company outside if she
Yeah.
owns stock of my company? Oh,
That is funny. That is
oh,
very funny. Slightly ironic.
slightly ironic.
So let's look at you. Where did you grow up? I think it was Mexico. And how did that shape who you are today?
So I grew up in Mexico City. I was born in Monterrey, raised in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Went to college back in Monterrey. But in Mexico, I grew up in a environment. We used to have a financial crisis every 6 years.
Mm.
Our president's term is 6 years, and
hmm
every time the president got the country deeply in debt,
hmm
control the currency, and then when they change, the new president gets it, and it's a disaster of a country, and they
Mm.
have to have a big devaluation and price and everything, so they
Right.
could get back on track.
hmm
So every 6 years, we had a very big financial crisis in the country.
Wow.
So
That's
I grew up,
three cycles before you're 18.
I 3 cycles, yeah, but I've had 5 by now, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and you learn a lot, believe me. Like people here have financial crisis. No, like I've done every 6 months, every 6 years. So my 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 way of seeing companies is very different.
hmm
Um, like the other day, an entrepreneur that I coach tells me, Daniel, you're the most negative entrepreneur I've ever dealt with. And I was
Interesting.
like, no, I'm the most real entrepreneur that you've met
hmm
because I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I've
hmm
had at least 4 financial crises of me being a CEO, and
hmm
I survived all of
Yeah.
that. I haven't missed payroll in 25 years.
hmm
So I usually have a company that I try to have some cushions or some protections that
Okay.
even when there's a crisis, I'm able to react fast.
So you've always got some kind of parachute. Would that be a good way of describing it?
I try to put parachutes, but I'm very keen to read the economy,
Hmm.
and I'm usually prepared more than anyone else.
Interesting.
By the way, 2008 caught me completely unprepared,
Hmm.
because I did not understand the US. Did not
Got
know
it.
how to read the US economy and trends.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't happen.
Got it.
Um, but that's kind of, I don't know if you, Mexican directors of movies. There's three or four very very famous.
Yeah.
They Harry Potter and all that have been,
Yeah.
Avatar has a
Yeah.
Mexican producer and the rest.
Hmm.
And one day they were interviewing this guy, and they asked him, "Hey, how you get all these crazy ideas of scenes, right? Like you bring all these things." And the guy asked, and his response was, "I'm Mexican." He said, "We see that shit every day in the country. So what? But you're seeing here in the movies, and you think it's completely creative. It's how we left. It was part of our day-to-day living.
That makes sense. That
So
makes
so so I have that kind of not sixth sense, but that difference
that's
compared to a CEO in the US.
so
Um,
this might be the same kind of question, Daniel, but what was the most significant turning point in your life?
Two big
Hmm.
turning points. The first one was when I was around 8 or 9 years old. We were in a ranch of an uncle who spent
Hmm.
Christmas. And the 25 in the morning, we all go run to the tree and start opening the presents. And we were all with the parents opening the presents and having fun.
Hmm.
And then my dad disappears and comes out like half hour later, dressed in a suit.
Hmm.
Like, everyone's in the pajamas or sweatshirt and here, and you're with a suit. And my dad said, "Well, I got a call from my boss. I
Hmm.
need to go to Mexico." And he left. So I was crying, and I was in a really, imagine I was not a happy kid that my dad left on Christmas
Yeah.
morning. So I'm praying with my mom and said, "Mom, what's going on?" "Oh, your father has a boss, and the boss, well, your father, by the way, was 1993, before
Mhm.
1994 big devaluation, Mexico crisis. And
Okay.
the president knew they were going to have to devaluate. And he
Hmm.
called all the cabinet. My father was a high caliber government official in Mexico.
Ah, right.
So he got called before we got into a devaluation because they had to prepare the government.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember vividly, my mom said, well, your father got called. And I was like, "But why my uncles are here?" And my father had to go, right? All my uncles were there with their
Yeah.
kids. And my mom said, "Well, your father is an employee. All your uncles are business owners." And I was like, "What is that?" I could understand, right? For me, all the dads work, right? There
Yeah,
was no
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, but there's a
And
big
my mom
difference.
said, "Well, they own their business." And I was like, "What's the difference?"
Yeah.
And my mom said, "Well, your dad works for someone else. And if
Hmm.
someone else calls him, if your dad doesn't go, he's going to be fired. So he has to go. And your uncles, they own the business. They don't have any boss. So they
Yeah.
decide. And they're deciding to stay here." And it was a huge like wake up call. Like, I
Yeah.
no way I can't work for anyone else.
I get
But by
it.
the way, I did work for someone for around 5 years,
Hmm.
my company,
Yeah.
and I'm very thankful I did. I
Okay.
learned a lot of discipline and how to run businesses working for
Yeah.
someone else.
That's
So,
cool.
so I always recommend working for someone else at least for 5 years.
Okay.
Uh, and then the second moment was 2008. Um, I did a company in 1998 that was very, very successful. I By my 20s, 26, 27, I had a good chunk of money in the bank.
Hmm.
And I was very lucky. I built the first fintech in
Ah,
Mexico. We
okay.
were the first one to put financial information online and do stock trading and everything in the country,
Hmm.
1999.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine that blew up. It was a huge
Yeah,
success
very early.
very early. And after that, I moved to the US and opened my first company in the US. And I
Hmm.
opened a mortgage bank to give loans to undocumented Hispanics.
Oh, wow.
So in 2007, I
Mm-hmm.
was the subprime of the subprime. There was no one more subprime than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that really caught me by surprise.
Got it.
I when the US economy changes
Hmm.
really fast. but
Yeah.
like really fast.
Yeah.
It's something that people don't understand.
Hmm.
In the US, the systems, the process, the data, whenever there's a click, everything moves immediately. And in the US, you guys have because you're very entrepreneurial and you work with a lot of external capital, if
Hmm.
things don't work, you just shut it down and you accept the loss. Latin America, you don't accept the loss.
Okay.
You fight and you figure out on the family and like we have these like because you will never get capital to do another company. In the
Mm,
US, there's so much capital out there that it does if it doesn't go well, the team says, well, failure, shut it down, let's go to the next.
yeah.
And it changes like that. And I was not aware and I didn't understand that.
Huge
And it
wake up.
was a big shock for me. It was
Yeah.
a really big shock for me. My
But it
life changed.
seems like you came out of that stronger in the end with that information and with that
No,
experience.
that company went under, and it took me like 5 years to come back.
Okay.
So that company went under. I lost all my assets,
Hmm.
and I was responsible for leases and lines of credit and credit cards and everything.
Yeah.
So I lost everything. I had $1 million in debt
Hmm.
uh, after. And by the way, a lot of people said, "Hey, just declare bankruptcy and that's it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Mexican. How do I declare bankruptcy in a country that is not my country? Like,
Hmm.
it's not the same. You guys don't get it."
Hmm.
Uh, like in Mexico, I could declare bankruptcy. In the
Hmm.
US, I cannot declare bankruptcy. I'm not a US citizen.
Okay.
So I got $1 million loan
Yeah.
from family members
Hmm.
and paid everything that I owned. But
Oh.
then I had $1 million loan, 10% interest. It need to be
Ooh.
5 years to pay it back.
Ooh. Not easy.
Not easy. So that was a huge turning point
I'm
in my
sure.
second.
I'm sure. Wow.
By the
That's
way, no
crazy.
company, no money, no visa. My visa was
Hmm.
attached to a company. No company, no salary, no visa. Go back to Mexico.
Yeah. That's big.
And I went back for a year and a half to Mexico City
And rebuilt from there.
and rebuilt from there and then came back.
Amazing.
I wanted to live here. I loved living in Austin. My
Hmm.
family was very, very happy here, but
Yeah,
I just couldn't do it.
I get it.
So I went back to Mexico, kind of rebuild,
Hmm.
stabilize my income,
Yeah.
and then came back and continue working to pay my debt.
Understood. Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. I've got probably a less dramatic story than yours, but there are commonalities with your story there for sure. So that
All
makes
the
a lot.
entrepreneurs we've had,
Yeah, I
at
mean it's
least.
an entrepreneur life, right? Entrepreneurs, it's highs and lows, and there's a lot of lows.
So one day, quick story that people will enjoy. One day I took a program in MIT called Birthing of Giants.
Yeah.
And the first night, you go for 5 days, and they
Hmm.
send you to have dinner like at 6. And they said, hey, you cannot drink because there's going to be class after, so no alcohol the first night.
Hmm.
Fine. The second night we get to dinner, and it was open bar.
Ah.
What? We don't have class after? Yes, no, but don't worry. Have drinks and have fun. Right? So we start having beer and wine, all that. And then it's okay, great. We're going to go back to the room. We're going to go be in the room like 4 or 5 hours. So take enough drinks for the next 4 or 5 hours. We're like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense. How are we going to go to class and you're asking us to take drinks?
Yeah.
Go and take drinks. So everyone takes like a 6 pack for their own or a bottle of wine or something to go to the room. We get into the room, and the professor said, great, close the door, and said, today, this night is called the Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
All your companies were dead at least one night.
Hmm.
You guys brought it back. I want you guys to come to stage, and each one's going to tell the story of what happened and how they
Hmm.
brought their company back.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Hmm.
You can't imagine the stories I heard. Uh,
Yeah.
it was bad. I thought
Hmm.
mine was bad. That was way bad.
Okay.
But that's reality. Every entrepreneur has a night of a living dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that hits hard.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's something surprising you've learned about the people who study with you?
When things go bad, that's when you realize who are your friends. Who
Okay.
are the ones that are really your friends.
Hmm.
When I went down in 2008, I'm surprised of the calls that I got
Mm.
and the impact certain calls had on me.
Hmm.
Um,
The guys who are supporting you.
yes,
That's cool.
starting with my parents, can't
Hmm.
imagine, huge. Um, but two or three friends that made a significant impact in my life after
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Uh, they just didn't call to say, "Hey, how are you? I feel bad for you." No,
Yeah.
they came with real tools and things to do and help me fix it.
And were those two people a surprise to you?
Yes, um, because I did not understood that they were willing to commit resources for me to
That's
make
cool.
my life easier. You think you have friends and they call you and, "Hey, I support you. You're a great guy. Don't worry, everything's gonna be all right." And
Yeah.
not. And then there are people that put their job on the line and things to get it right. And that's when you realize
Very
who's who.
cool. Yeah, that resonates with me as well. So we're going to move on to the last section, which is called Love Hate. I'll just do a little intro to that.
Okay.
I I love you.
I hate you so much!
You decide which way we go, Daniel. What makes you angry, or what do you love about the education world?
So I love the impact. I really believe the only thing that has a return on investment guaranteed is education,
Hmm.
and it's for life. One thing that I hate on education, on accounting, for example, if I buy a phone,
Mm.
I could depreciate it in 5 years.
Hmm.
Accounting system. If I take a course, I have to spend it 100% the same year. But it's
Mm.
going to stay in my brain for 20 or 30 or 50.
Yeah,
So we don't value education with the impact that it has.
true. True.
Uh, One thing that I hate is we say education is the most important, our kids is the most important, and we pay professors really bad, really bad.
Yes, yes.
Most education companies,
Hmm.
they're not profitable, or they make very little money
Yeah.
um, because of it. Now we go into business, and there's money in business. So first, we're lucky we love education in business because that's
Hmm.
an area of business that you can make money. But it's hard to make money in education. It's really, 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 really hard to make money in education.
Well, yeah, as a former teacher, I can testify to that. It was I was there for the love, not for the money.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
You're in charge of teaching our kids to be
Yeah.
successful.
And yeah, I mean, in my case, I'm banging my own drum, but I was a good teacher, you know? Like kids would say to me that they didn't love my subject, but they loved being in my class. Right? So that's a compliment. But I
And
left because I wasn't, you know, financially, it wasn't going to be a future for me or my family. That's why, not the only reason, but that was a big reason.
that's rigorous. I get it. I get it. Hey,
Big.
we our one of our duties as men is be providers to our family.
Exactly.
And if you feel you won't be able to provide them correctly or give them the things, like one of the hardest things for me as a dad is sometimes that my kids want something that I
Mm.
want to give it to them because I know they're going to make them happy and it's good, and I cannot afford it.
Yeah.
Terrible as a dad.
Yeah, I kind of had a theory on that that's actually not such a bad thing. However, like I've been fortunate enough to know very, very wealthy people. Like when we lived in Portugal, my kids went to an international school there, and I don't know, man, you saw some very, very wealthy families, and those kids got everything, but they didn't always seem happy.
But so yes, you're right. But there's some things that my kids want that I know it's not the right thing. As
Hmm.
an example, my son is 13, and this
Hmm.
is a lot because of my wife. He doesn't have a smartphone. He has a flip phone. He's
Mm.
the only one of his friends that does have a smartphone.
Okay.
And can I afford one? I have three iPhones that I've not used in the for like I change my phone every couple of years, and the old
Yeah.
one just drop into the
Yeah.
drawer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the money. It's there. We won't give my son a smartphone. I think having a smartphone at that age is really bad.
I get it.
So it's that, those are the things that I agree with you. That's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving a smartphone to a 10-year-old kid, and I've seen kids that are 10 having a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mess. I think that's really bad.
No, I hear what you're saying.
But there are things that I wish I was able to provide. But
Yeah.
today, no. But when I was after the mortgage company, I had
Mm.
a lot of things that I wanted to provide to my kids that I couldn't,
Yeah.
and that felt bad.
Yeah, I kind of listen. I'm detached from your story, so it's really easy for me to judge it. When you're in that situation, I've lived that situation, just not as dramatically as you. It's hard, but from the outside looking in, I would say if you then go on to success, whatever success means to you, and your kids see you have that trouble, have that down period and then come out of it strong. I think, I mean, what better lesson could your kids have?
I agree. So my daughter lived that
Hmm.
very vividly. My son is when he was born, I was already kind of coming back. But my
Hmm.
daughter saw that.
Yeah, I think that's very, very instrumental in a child's education. Like, but the question then is whether or not they perceive things as being a bad situation they had to deal with, or just a situation that they had to deal with. And the difference between the two perspectives can be the difference between how they move forward in life.
I
I like to think in my case that my kids, they've seen the down times, but they've
yes,
also seen that it just meant we had a few less things. It there was the same amount of love, there was the same amount of happiness, there was just slightly less things.
and they understand that there was a time in life, and they were okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. I shielded them from a lot of the information anyway. Because what was the information? Why would I share the finer details? Things have changed.
Yep,
We're readapting, and this is part of the process. That was pretty much the conversation.
good.
You know,
I,
it
I
doesn't
agree.
have to be bad. It can just be life.
Indeed, that's why a lot of third generations of companies, or that's why they kill the company in the third generation, because they never saw the suffering. They
Yeah.
never saw what it took to build it. So
Hmm.
if you're, let's say the grandfather builds a company, the
Yeah.
father sees the grandfather having all the drama and then
Yeah.
protects that much better. But the kids didn't see anything.
True.
And those are the ones that destroy the companies.
I'm with you.
Most of family businesses go under on third generation.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that, and that makes a ton of sense to me. It's a conundrum, I think.
It's
I
gonna,
think it's the success conundrum.
that's great.
The whoever's running the company next needs to understand the hard times as well as the good times.
Yes.
It's a conundrum. All right. So, what's the best or worst advice you got about starting a business?
The worst is about following your passion. I and this is, I'll tell you this in a story that I heard very recent.
Yeah.
Uh, and a cousin of mine has done really,
Hmm.
really well. And I
Hmm.
went with my son to his ranch when we were doing all these things and having a lot of fun. And my son really likes trains. That's his passion.
Yeah.
He's saying he's going to have a train and he's going to be a train conductor and all that. And I kind of worry
Mm.
because I know that there's not a lot of money in that.
Sure.
And my cousin, I told him the story. So when we were with my kid, he was showing us his ranch and everything he's done. And he turned to my son and said, "Hey, by the way, I had a very similar situation with you and your dad." And
Mm.
he said, "I like cars. And I really, really love cars. So I had not a dealership, but I had a lot and I bought and sell cars."
Hmm.
And one day my dad came to me and said, "Hey, I love that you have a great passion and it's awesome you have a passion. but you don't make money on your passion necessarily.
Mm.
Make money what you're good at,
Yeah.
and then spend your money on your passion. But make your money what you're good at, and you can make good money.
Yeah. That makes a
I
lot of
really
sense.
believe in that.
Yeah, to me, that makes a lot of sense. I'm always careful about being too prescriptive about how people should live their lives or go about things. But I think it's a valuable perspective and a valuable question to ask yourself is, can I make the money with the skills that I have and then use that as leverage to enjoy the things that I enjoy? I think you and I see things the same way in that respect. Okay, that's cool.
So
Um,
that's a bad one.
well, yeah, I would agree. I would agree. What's the most difficult part for you about running a business?
People is always the hardest. Because of course, I have a perception and a way of doing certain things.
Hmm.
Sometimes people don't see it like you or don't, and this is something that I learned very early. Common sense is never common. It's
Hmm.
common for you, it's not necessarily common for them.
Yeah.
So different perspectives
Mm.
people have. It's rich. We have good conversations, but that's the hardest part.
So
Um,
getting everybody on board with a vision, is that part of the
I,
task?
I for getting the vision, I think it's less of a problem. We have a lot of tools of how to get the vision.
Hmm.
But how do you react to certain things and how do you execute that vision is very different.
Okay.
Um,
Autonomy? Are we talking about autonomy as
so
well?
sometimes an employee makes something that I didn't even think that they could do that. And I was like, why you did it? And they were like, well, that's why I thought it was right. And I was like, how can you even think that? Like, I want to kill them because how can it just makes no sense, right?
Yeah,
And
people
at
will
the end,
always find a way of surprising you.
I am accountable for everything that goes wrong in my company.
Yes.
So I've
Yeah.
had to call thought leaders or call clients to apologize for something that team member did.
Yeah.
That I tell them my employer, sorry, I tell my client or the thought leader of the faculty, I said, I'm sorry, I have no idea how this person thought that was the right thing to do.
Hmm.
That will never be on my mind something right, but they did it and I thought it was right.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
Ultimately, as
hard.
a business owner, it's our responsibility, right?
You always said everything that goes well in your company, your team is responsible.
Yeah.
Everything that goes bad in your company, you are responsible.
100%. 100%. I love it. We're finishing up now, Daniel. What's your favorite quote?
Oof. The way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful. And
Yeah.
when I understood it, I saw my life very different, and I saw the things I do in my life very different.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that one. It reminds me of another quote, to know one thing is to know 1,000 things.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the same, but it reminds me of it. Final question. What questions should I have asked you?
What makes great CEOs? Um,
And what does make a great CEO?
so I coach a lot of CEOs on how to be better and how to scale their companies.
Hmm.
And what makes a great CEO is that he's very driven
Hmm.
and he's has dreams and he looks into big things,
Yeah.
but they're also coachable in the process.
Okay.
Um, uh, for me, reading books and now taking course online has been game changer. It's
Hmm.
because it allows me to get into the mind of brilliant people
Okay.
for nothing. Like you could get into the brain of
Yeah.
one of the most brilliant people in the world for $20.
Yeah.
Like how can you that's the best gift. Um,
So
but
always
if
learning.
they're always learning. But if you think you know all, it's like if you cannot read. if the book is there and you're not reading it,
Yeah.
it's like you cannot read. So, and I see a lot of CEOs that said, I'm going to read from that book. I'm not going to learn anything.
Mm.
And I was like, are you joking? No, I already know what the book says.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Well, this
Fun.
reminds me of the kind of Blockbuster story, right? And there's a thousand versions of the Blockbuster story where they didn't buy Netflix when they could, right? Because they just didn't see it. They thought they were too big. And there's like the same for BlackBerry and all these different stories, right? It's all a similar type of perspective of we don't need to adapt, we don't need to learn, we don't need to change, and
And they're gone.
it can bite you on the ass.
Yep.
All right. How can people find you and Growth Institute?
LinkedIn is the one we use the most. Daniel Marcos in LinkedIn or Growth Institute in LinkedIn. And then Instagram. I'm using a lot of Instagram. DanielMarcos.scale in Instagram. Also Growth Institute in Instagram.
All right. We'll put that all in there. Very good. Daniel, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you have an e-learning business, you're a leader of an e-learning business that you're looking to get to the next level, increase sales, that kind of thing, feel free to reach out. I'll put a link to my LinkedIn beneath this video and you can get me there. Have a great day.